Every year, tragic drunken driving accidents like this one near Orr occur. In fact, in Minnesota alone last year, 189 people died in alcohol-related crashes. Now the Minnesota State Patrol is using high-tech science to help get drunken drivers off the roadways.
Doctors have come to us to tell us exactly what the impairment will show in a person, because they know being alcohol is a drug, it's depressant. Depressants act upon the body in certain ways.
For example, this simple eye test can show if someone's been drinking by how smoothly your eyes follow an officer's direction.
My finger here?
Yeah.
I want you to follow that with your eyes and your eyes only. Don't move your head back and forth, okay?
Mm-hmm. Officer Chip Lemon is a drug recognition expert, meaning he's had special training to spot drunken and drug drivers. And he uses tests like walking the line.
A lot of drunks will just walk it out. They're just walking the 9 steps, and they're not doing the heel to toe. They miss that part. They're not getting that. And with the turn,
and this tough one, where you have to balance and count.
we're looking for the people to put their foot down. And for you, just doing this, bringing an arm up, has to be 6 inches. So it's got to be like this. They're balancing themselves, and it's also if they're swaying while they're doing the test. You get people doing this.
It's a pretty foolproof process. If you drink, if you drive, and if you're caught, you'll end up here. Officers say this year, maybe the best New Year's resolution is for people to swear off drunken or impaired driving for good.
No one wants to be here. We don't want them to be here. That's why talking to people, asking them to not drink and drive, go out and have a great time. Do what you want to, but stay behind the wheel, or away from behind the wheel. Find a designated driver. Call a taxi cab.
In Duluth, Maureen Tallarico, News 6.
Nobody likes to shovel snow and freeze, but it is our livelihood up here for the majority of the resorts. So we're happy to see it. Below zero weather and tundra looking is great.
I would call it contaminated.
She was going to look for the dog, to get the dog, because it apparently got out of the yard, ran away from home, out roaming, and she found it either alive or dead, either one. She stopped to get it, and that's when all the accidents happened.
Okay.
From the NBC News Archives and MSNBC, this is Time and Again 2000.
It's a girl. This morning at 7:46 a.m.
With those words, 70-year-old Dr. Howard Jones announced the birth of America's first so-called test tube baby born this morning. She's 5-pound, 12-ounce Elizabeth Jordan Carr, born by cesarean section to 28-year-old Judith Carr, a school teacher in Westminster, Massachusetts. Her husband, Roger, was present at the birth. It's a technique that has been criticized by right-to-life groups who are concerned that doctors may destroy an embryo which is less than perfect. Some doctors say it's experimental with unknown risks to the child. Today, Dr. Howard Jones rejected that criticism.
I think this is no more experimental than the use of microsurgery for correcting fallopian tubes.
I had animals. I had 7 cats, and the fire department was able to get 4 of them out for me. 1 was dead, but they revived it for me.
Many Northlanders are stomping their way into the new year on the right foot. With the new year comes new resolutions, and fitness seems to be at the top of everyone's list.
Well, I just kind of want to be here to, work out a little bit more and maybe get rid of some of the winter blues, just get out a little bit more from my house, Work out just with a couple friends, start stuff like that.
I'm here as part of my New Year's resolution to get my left knee better. I just had arthroscopic surgery on it. I had a lateral release, and I'm here just conditioning and trying to get it back to 100%.
People exercise for different reasons, but local health club managers say they didn't expect to see the high volume of clients already flowing in.
Well, I'm pretty surprised. It's very busy today and starting the new month. A lot of people come in and want to start the New Year's resolution.
And those already glued to the gym say their resolution is to continue working out, with a little help from friends.
At times it's difficult just because you're lazy or you put in a hard day's work, but if you have somebody that walks with you or does the activities with you, it's a lot easier.
Diet and fitness consultants agree jumping into a fitness routine can be difficult, especially for beginners with high expectations for the new year. They have a few pointers on how to beat the workout blues. Fitness is a lifetime change, meaning exercising should be a part of your daily lifestyle, so don't look at it as something extra or tedious to do. Don't be too hard on yourself either. For example, take a break from exercising if you're too tired to work out on a particular day. Remember, we're only human. And finally, buddy up with a workout partner. It's more exciting and it's a great way to build a support system. These helpful tips will make the dive into the new year a lot easier. In Duluth, Corrine Winter, News 6.
Well, I just kind of want to be here to, work out a little bit more and maybe get rid of some of the winter blues, just get out a little bit more from my house, Work out just with a couple friends, start stuff like that.
I'm here as part of my New Year's resolution to get my left knee better. I just had arthroscopic surgery on it. I had a lateral release, and I'm here just conditioning and trying to get it back to 100%.
It's great to take your kids shopping with you, but you should know that kids can get seriously hurt if you don't take the right precautions when you put them in the cart.
Hidden cameras caught these parents making some potentially dangerous mistakes, like letting this little girl stand up in the checkout line, or this little boy hanging out, pulling out clothes for a closer look. Or how about these girls standing and changing places with their guardians nowhere in sight? And you don't need a hidden camera to find these types of problems. Stores say it happens all the time. This cart was so full the child was riding on the handlebars, and this little girl was doing gymnastics.
When a child falls and lands on their head, they can have bleeding internally inside the brain, and that can lead to very serious complications and even death.
So why aren't parents buckling their kids into shopping carts? One reason is broken straps. They're not hard to find in many stores. But even at stores where straps are in good order, parents still aren't using them. Excuses range from fussy kids to tight fits. The bottom line, all kids under 5 should be strapped in the front. No child of any age should ride in the back. And never let children push a cart. They can run into people or tip the cart over.
How about those Badgers? Together, we must ensure that our young people will continue to regard government service as the very highest calling, worthy of their best gifts and talents.
At first I thought he was going to be all right. He was exciting. But the more I hear him, I think he's going to be a big fake, and just like he was when he was a wrestler.
Well, I'd like to see him follow through on his flat rate for the state auto license fees. That would be great.
I voted for Governor Ventura, and I think Governor Ventura will do an excellent job.
Yes, our family voted for Jesse Ventura because we looked at common sense. We believed he had the most common sense of the three candidates.
Martin is charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder in the beating and shooting death of Two Harbors teen Paul Antonich. 17-year-old Paul rear-ended Martin and 4 others at a Duluth intersection on August 28th of 1996. The state alleges Martin and others kidnapped and beat Paul, then Martin shot him. Martin had been scheduled to go on trial twice before, but the defense and prosecution are appealing court rulings to the Supreme Court. Martin's attorney wants a mental illness defense allowed. The prosecution wants testimony from 2 convicted defendants in this case to be used against Martin.
Andy DuVernay received a life sentence more than a year ago for his role in the murder of Paul Antonich, a Two Harbors teen. Now he's trying to appeal a conviction of aiding and abetting first-degree murder. DuVernay admitted that he participated in the kidnapping of Antonich after a fender bender in 1996, but his lawyers say he did not actively participate in the murder.
His defense at trial, and he testified, he said, I didn't do anything to assist or encourage or counsel John Martin in committing that killing. In fact, I didn't even know he was going to commit a killing.
DuVernay's lawyer says the indictment against him charged he actively participated in the murder, while the jury ended up convicting him on a different theory of liability, that he took part in the kidnapping, which led to the murder. An attorney for the state said it shouldn't matter. DuVernay was aware of both theories, and she says he was guilty of taking part in the kidnapping and the murder.
There's no question that DuVernay knew that he was being charged with kidnapping Paul Antonich. Under the law, whether it was alleged in the indictment or not, if murder was a reasonably foreseeable, probable consequence of that kidnapping, he's liable for it, regardless of his level of intent.
DuVernay's lawyer also claims that he should have had his own trial. You may remember that he was tried with Lester Greenleaf. And she claims that the jury selection was based on race. I did get a chance to speak with the Antoniches today, and they gave me a couple of pictures of their son. On the back they wrote, "People do die, love never does. Love forever and ever, Paul." This is still a matter that is very close to their hearts. And while they say they want to see this resolved in the courts, they say every step of the process just prolongs their pain. Back to you.
The scientific process of amniocentesis is reliable but invasive, and it generally isn't done until a mother's in her 2nd trimester. Chorionic villi sampling is also dependable but extremely invasive. But the question is, are there any methods for determining pre-birth sex without medical meddling?
All Ann Boyce cared about was having a healthy baby, boy or girl. But her mother believed she could have chosen whether it would be a boy or a girl simply by timing intercourse.
When people asked her, well, how did you get so many sons? She said, well, I have this theory. I'm not sure it works, but try it, and it always works.
The theory is if you want a boy, you have sex close to ovulation. The sperm with the Y chromosome supposedly gets to the egg faster. And if you want a girl, just wait a bit.
I think there is some validity to it, but I can't explain it.
Experts can't either and say there is no real evidence to support that myth or any of the others.
Lots of people who say, well, I've had 3 girls. Doctor, is there anything you can do to help me have a boy or vice versa? And there really isn't.
There is new technology which allows doctors to separate sperm and then artificially inseminate a woman's egg, but it is intrusive, expensive, and doesn't always work.
If somebody is willing to pay the money and go through this experience and then be artificially inseminated by her partner's sperm just to have a boy or a girl, lots of luck, but there's no guarantee.
For more information on sex selection, you can check out the Johns Hopkins website. We've linked to the site so you can access it through our News 6 homepage.
It's really great to see all the people down here, and they've done a great job organizing the race. We're really thankful for the volunteers.
As Jackie said, I have lost a member of my family. And I also feel very bad for my husband, who's poured so much of his heart and his energy and his time into this race, into training this team. Was a team dog on the team. Usually ran 3rd, 4th, or 5th back from lead. Tim was a hard worker who would race on Pat's team. As Jackie said, I have lost a member of my family. And I also feel very bad for my husband, who's poured so much of his heart and his energy and his time into this.
The dogs of John Barron's team are catching a quick nap and a hot meal after a hard day's work under less than ideal conditions.
The trail is real thin snow, and going down some of the steeper hills, there's been a lot of traffic. It's got the snow down to the dirt, and so there's holes in the dirt where it hasn't frozen really good.
Vets say the piles of booties like this at each checkpoint have a story of their own to tell about this year's Bear Grease Trail.
You can see the rather major tears and holes through the bottom, so that just points out how rough the trails were through the city of Duluth, with lots of bare rocks and pretty rough trails.
Ready? All right! Go, guys!
But the remainder of the course is expected to be more smooth. Now it's the hills the mushers will contend with.
The dogs are digging it. They're rocking.
Rocking all the way to Grand Portage. The leaders are expected to finish either late Tuesday night or early Wednesday morning. On the Bear Grease Trail, Gina Katzmark, News 6.
They say there's only 2 things certain in life, death and taxes. And when too much money is paid in taxes, you get a surplus. Minnesota's is $1 billion. At a town meeting Monday night, newly elected Governor Jesse Ventura asked citizens in Minneapolis, Bemidji, and Mankato the $1 billion question.
What do they think should happen to the surplus?
And there were plenty of answers.
The consensus of the group sort of seemed to be that yes, there should be a rebate. The concerns being, how do you spread that fairly across the taxpayers who've paid that in?
And that's what lawmakers are wrestling with. A Republican plan calls for a state income tax rebate. It would give you back all 97 taxes up to $150. If you paid more, add on another 20% of the state tax you paid to your rebate. But there would be a cap limit. It sounds good on paper, but some people don't pay state income tax. People like farmers, senior citizens, or very low-income people. And that's why others favor a state sales tax rebate. A rebate based on sales tax would give you a check based on the amount of sales tax the state estimates you pay based on your income. For example, in 1994, the average Minnesota household spent $719 in state sales tax. And since everybody buys something, everybody would get something back, and it may be protected from federal income taxes.
That I have is that it's a sales tax, and that you don't have to declare sales tax on your income.
And protecting $1 billion from the hands of Uncle Sam seems to be an issue all parties agree with.
The question gets to be the fairness of giving the money back, and then the second question about not giving it any to the feds in the form of the federal tax, if that's at all possible.
Since everybody's participated in this economic growth, everybody ought to participate in some kind of a rebate, and then if any kind of strategy that we can devise that can keep it here for Minnesotans, we're very much open to that. So,
in Duluth, a few people chose one plan over the other.
No one should be excluded. Everyone's paying money, everyone's paying taxes one way or another.
But the majority we spoke with just want money coming back in the mail.
It doesn't make any difference to me. No, it really doesn't.
Just as long as you get a check?
As long as I get some back, that's all I need to worry about.
While the amount may vary, once a plan is chosen, Minnesota residents can expect to see the money as soon as a fiscal year ends or sooner. In Duluth, Maureen Tallarico, News 6.
No jeopardy of losing anything close to our bond rating. We've got
And frankly, I think Democrats are going to be making a big mistake if all of a sudden we don't want to talk about values and we don't want to talk about morality and we act as if all of this is unimportant. But I didn't like what the House did or the way they did it, and I will tell you tonight that I do not believe, on the basis of all that I've read and heard, that what the President has done, however reprehensible, and it's reprehensible and I don't want to defend it, rises to the order of a, quote, impeachable offense or something that we should remove him from office.
Senator Wellstone, it's been a great pleasure talking to you, and you're not running for president after those sort of passionate words from you, not running for president. We'll have to leave it there, but I have to say I'm disappointed.
Thank you. I appreciate your saying that.
Many thanks for your time this evening. Have a good night. Up next, the stories of men and women who shaped a generation, from a man who found inspiration from them. NBC anchor and best-selling author Tom Brokaw talks about his new book, The Greatest Generation. Stay with us.
Alan, welcome aboard, sir.
In the close-knit, highly charged world of environmental activists, the new boss at the DNR is a man of mystery.
Well, I've yet to find anybody who knows him in any personal way. I did find one customer, a person who was a customer of his business, but that doesn't really tell me anything.
Alan Horner is a businessman who 15 years ago served on the board of Outward Bound, but he leapt to the top of the governor's DNR list when 2 minutes into the interview, Ventura spotted one essential item on his resume.
Jesse didn't know that I was a SEAL until 2 minutes into our interview early this week. So that did not enter into the equation of me getting here. I'm here for other reasons.
Really?
It was important to me for this particular job, but I had but at the time, as he said, I didn't know it until I read his resume. It scored points, you're darn right it did.
Not with environmentalists who are frankly puzzled. Ginny Yingling says she wishes the governor's staff would have sampled opinion from conservation groups.
You know, it's not that our organization, because we're the Sierra Club, should have access, but it's because we represent 14,000 citizens in this state.
Audubon Society members who come from all walks of life throughout Minnesota are devoted to conservation and vitally interested in who this person is and where he's going to lead us, and I think it's and there are no answers at this point in time.
Well, there is one answer. The governor says Horner's experience as a fellow SEAL makes him the perfect guy for the job.
And I know that this job requires someone with integrity, someone with a never quit attitude, and someone with an attitude who will succeed.
The ones that are most concerned right now, the people with small children, because it does affect people, 2 years and younger. I mean, it's just so fast. It hits so hard. Babies can't tell you, mommy, it hurts here or mommy, it hurts there. So with this one child that's been sick, this 5-year-old that's been sick for like a couple of weeks, it's a major concern for children that have just what seems like a simple cold can die tomorrow. It's a scary thought. Yeah, I hope it does get addressed because, like I said, it's just a public thing, and with all of us living in such a small community, what hopefully will someday be even smaller, admitted to.
Loan me the pen. It's not flying, we're building airplanes, and she's not real clear on how that works out.
Don't have very big wings.
You might know about that from trying. That's right. Yes, exactly. Force of gravity is applying to pull you down while you're trying to move, trying to fly. That's a force. Okay, go ahead and try it, Patrick. Whoa, that's pretty good. Let's mark you there. Go ahead and try it again.
Same thing. We'll just put it in. We just take a picture of an airplane instead of a penguin to see that airplane has weight.
The Fond du Lac Tribal Center, an area normally filled with students, drew many again today, but for a different reason. The meningitis outbreak among Native Americans on the reservation has prompted those between the ages of 2 and 29 to get vaccinated.
It's more of a relief knowing that the kids will be safe.
I thought it was like a bee, like a little plastic needle going through my skin.
Hundreds drove into the Fond du Lac Tribal Center to get shots. Parents shuffled nervous kids inside to get vaccinated, but many still have concerns the disease may spread.
It's a lot less. Unfortunately, you still have to wait like 7 days, 7 to 10 days. So, that 7 to 10 days, once we get past that, I'll feel a lot better.
Meningitis isn't a disease unique to Native Americans, but doctors encourage Native Americans in Duluth and Cloquet to get immunized since all 4 victims already infected with the disease are from the Native American community. Health workers say they're pleased with the number of people already showing up for vaccinations.
I think that the information that we've put in people's hands has calmed a lot of fear, and I think that people are learning more about what they have to know to contain the disease.
Even the younger ones, too young to probably understand what's going on. They were given coloring books with information on how to protect themselves against contracting the disease. Students here at the Nettleton School in Duluth were also vaccinated today. Health officials say those students are holding up just fine. Those who dreaded the thought of a needle prick were encouraged to bring in a stuffed animal or a Beanie Baby with them to school, just for a little extra support. School leaders say about 90% of students have already been vaccinated. Now it will be a matter of waiting to see if no new cases turn up. Corrine Winter, News 6.
How about permission? Is there any problem? Any parent, or all the parents said, okay, yeah, give the vaccine to my child? Are you run into any permission problems at all?
I think that'll be determined when the children come in, as opposed to seeing.
He's a living, screaming reflection of the primal urges inside every fan.
My job description is this: start yelling!
Viking faithful know him as Ragnar, a motorcycle riding, shield clanging, cheese leaping lunatic. For the opposition, he's a one-man noise generator.
Obviously, the Metrodome is a tough place to play. The Minnesota fans will be riled up.
Dirty birds will destroy you!
And while Mr. Ragnar can tear a dirty bird apart with his hands this week, there are at least two things he cannot do with them.
I cannot do this, and I cannot do that.
On Tuesday, the NFL offered Ragnar and the Viking cheerleaders a friendly reminder. It is against league rules for them to use hand gestures, signs, or other measures to, quote, incite the crowd.
My question to him was, wait a minute. I see the players, and I see other coaches do it all the time. And they said they can. And I thought, why can they, but not me?
You never feel old. I feel like I'm 18 yet.
This week, Joe Jurinich is using his job working with students at Minnetonka High School as a source for anti-Atlanta inspiration.
What can I do? So that's a good one. I never even thought of that. Or what about two of them? Why all the noise? It's supposed to be quiet in the dome now.
Joe Jurinich insists he will do his best to toe the NFL line on Sunday.
Get up!
But with the Super Bowl on the line, fans won't need much pumping up anyway.
No, this game, it really, if I would have had a napkin, I would have been wiping the tears away from my eyes.
That was the feeling of many Vikings fans who watched Atlanta kick the winning field goal in shock and disbelief. Fans say it was an anticlimactic end to an intense game that was full of ups and downs. My stomach was in knots. It was very stressful, just very sad. Fans rode a roller coaster of emotions as they watched their team pull ahead at some points and have a difficult time hanging on to the ball in others. Fans were pleading with the Vikes for a big win. Even though hopes for the Super Bowl were dashed, fans say the game kept them on their toes. Even when they didn't agree with all the plays that were called.
30 seconds with Randy Moss and Chris Carter being deep threats. I'm surprised they at least didn't give it one shot deep.
Vikes fans say this is one game they won't soon forget.
Overall, I just, in general, think it's the best championship game ever played. It'll probably go down in history over the next 20 to 30 years. You'll see it over and over again.
This is one of the best games of the season, and it was full of excitement. We were all on the edge of our seats. Unfortunately, it turned out the way it did, but next year we're there for them.
That hope for an even more successful season next year keeps diehard fans going.
I'm looking very forward to next season. We're going to almost have the same team as we had this year, and we'll have something more to cheer for. Next year we're going for the 72 Dolphin record. We're going 16-0 and we're going to the bowl.
A positive attitude, the best way to wrap up an amazing season for the home team. In Duluth, Kim Kaiser, News 6.
It is a cruel jest to say to a bootless man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps.
This little kitten didn't have much hope starting out. Not only was she homeless, she also had a severe medical problem.
Within a few days, they noticed that she had a limp, and so they brought her in, I think, on a Thursday, or actually it was a Friday morning, and they said that she was limping for half a day, and they wanted us to check her out, and sure enough, she had a broken leg.
The shelter brings in hundreds of cats and dogs each year, and many have to be euthanized because they aren't adopted out or have severe medical problems. But things were different for this kitty, thanks to Dr. Waugh.
She was a nice cat, and I mean, every animal is nice, and so you kind of have to figure out where you draw the lines. But we had already spayed her. She was already, we thought, a very adoptable animal, and we had begun investing time and money in her, and thought that it should continue.
Besides fixing the cat, this good-hearted vet also fixed the medical bill, opting not to charge the shelter several hundreds of dollars, the normal price. Instead, just $70 for the operation, x-rays, and the cast.
It was just a little way of saying, thank you, that we appreciate what you're doing for the animal population in the Duluth area as well.
The kitten is able to walk, sit, even jump with the cast on. But there's still one main hurdle she needs help with. She needs a new home. The Adopt Me on her cast says it all.
And if we've got a little bit of time, sometimes we'll just write their name or something like that on their cast. And since she didn't have a name, I figured, well, we may as well make a little advertisement for her and see if it'll help.
Maureen Tallarico, News 6.
So what did you say that caused them? They were examples that we could have given in our answer. But we read not really for answer at all. Yeah, I know, exactly. And they were just impressed by our professional
The two classes previous to ours have gone to Washington, D.C., so we had some big shoes to fill. So we really didn't want to let Miss Hackla down, so we decided that our goal was Washington, D.C. or bust.
Washington award. It's sort of like
yeah, with the viewing him in the past,
yeah. You know,
so then just with hate crimes, it affects just
It was kind of almost a reiteration of what we saw. No, that's
Skip, did you do it?
Why don't you guys want to take it? But I've got this that's going to be gone. She has to.
The thrill of racing down the trail on a snowmobile. While riding on a fast sled can be very exciting, local DNR wardens want snowmobiling to be safe too. That's why they stake out spots along high traffic trails in Wisconsin to make sure riders are obeying the laws.
What we're doing here is we're just We're just checking his registration card with the registration numbers on the sled, so it matches up, so the sled's not stolen, or or everything matches up. And then right there, then that's where he has his Wisconsin Trail Pass.
DNR wardens and members of the Douglas County Sheriff's Department are checking drivers to make sure they have the new $13 Trail Pass for Wisconsin. Snowmobilers say they don't mind getting stopped.
It's nice to see them out, kind of keeps you in check, but they're doing a good job by not nitpicking, I'd say so far.
But when officers are checking for proper registration, they're also looking for snowmobilers who've had too much to drink.
It seems to be a constant that alcohol and speed are the two things that we're looking at causing those accidents and especially causing the fatalities. So we want to make sure that people are having a good time, but they're having a good time and being safe too. So.
On a snowy night with lower visibility, many snowmobilers say they try to be safe drivers without the reminder from the DNR wardens.
Well, we all slow down. As a group, we're a safe group. We drive, well within what we think is the margin of our speed limit. We don't overdrive our headlights.
There aren't any speed limits on the trails here in Wisconsin, but there are plenty of stop signs to slow people down. And if you blow past one of these, it can cost you almost $150.
That's pretty prevalent, and you see the traffic we have here, it can get you killed. I mean, we have pulp trucks, logging, bigger semis, even with our cars and trucks. They're not really looking for these snowmobiles going so fast.
Snowmobilers do have to obey speed limits on regular roads that they share with cars. Wardens are also checking for snowmobiles that have been souped up, machines that violate Wisconsin's noise laws. Officers say the laws are there to keep everyone safe.
That trail passes looks good. Thanks a lot. Have a good time.
In Brule, Kim Kaiser, News 6. Late starts, buried cars, and flared tempers are all a part of a wintry day for many Northlanders. For a few, however, snowy roads can mean downright misery. 16-hour days and bad backs are just the tip of the iceberg for Duluth's dedicated plow drivers, who often find themselves stuck behind the wheel of a plow.
We don't have much time in the winter for anything but plowing and sanding, and it's mostly work.
Many of these snow-moving warriors only have one goal in mind.
It's just fun to get the streets open and get them so they're drivable.
And keeping the roads drivable can often prove to be a formidable task. Parked cars, poor visibility, and rough roads can make snow plowing like playing dodgeball blindfolded. And it's not just the outside hazards that make the days long and difficult for drivers. Mother Nature is also known to throw a punch or two. The snow just kept coming, making the thought of clean roads seem like no more than a cruel joke.
Yeah, we hit the same one about, like I've been on an airhead road 3 times already this morning to try to keep the main drags going.
Although it can sometimes look hopeless, the snow will end and the streets will open up, giving our devoted plow people a much-needed and well-deserved rest. In Duluth, Kim Kaiser, News 6.
And take, nobody gets everything they want, and nor should that happen. And we're certainly willing to cooperate with the governor, but we'll also let him know that that there are others who have ideas, and this cooperation goes 2 ways. It doesn't just go 1 way. When do you expect to present your version of the budget? We will have been out.
feels like your invincible shield has been removed.
Thank you.
Nothing like this has ever happened. It's very frightening for our staff and for the customers that were here last night. And we certainly hope it's the last time anything like this will happen.
I'm lost for words. I don't know. I have no words. I've been up. I don't know. I'm just wired. I don't know what to do.
Kurt Midbond says he's still in shock after an early morning fire gutted the home he had lived in with his brother his entire life. Firefighters arrived at the scene around 1:30 a.m. to find flames leaping from the roof and to find 26-year-old Chris McDonough on the floor inside. McDonough and the family dog died in the fire. Pictured here in his 10th grade class yearbook, McDonough was the son of Midbond's best friend.
Oh, he's a good kid. He was my buddy, man. You know, this is tragic. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I really don't know.
Midbond and his brother were down the street at the time of the blaze.
We were only gone for 10, 15 minutes, I don't know. They called me at my sister's. I come home to this.
Neighbors say the extent of the fire is frightening, and they call the loss it caused a tragedy.
You know, you feel sorry for those that go because they're so young. And you hate to see a young life just taken away.
Ready, go.
If you notice a swagger in the swim strokes of the Proctor rails here, it is a well-deserved swagger. These boys recently beat swimming powerhouse Duluth East, the first time they've done that in years.
It was it's first time, I think, in over 20 years that we beat them, and it was really a big bonus thing for our team this year. It was really, really fun.
A portion of the credit for that victory goes to the multi-talented Matt Sievers. Matt set 2 school records in the meet, one in the 100 freestyle and one in the 160 individual medley. When it comes to those records, though, Matt is very humble.
There's a lot of good swimmers on our team. I just try to do the best job I can.
Like Matt says, there are plenty of good swimmers in Proctor, and Coach Nelson has big hopes for them in the upcoming regional meet.
Well, Hibbing and Virginia are the big powerhouses in our region, and my goals, I guess, is to get as many kids down to the state meet as I can.
If Coach Nelson's swimmers can do as well against Virginia and Hibbing as they did against East, then it looks like there will be a lot of rails at the state meet. In Proctor, Dave Anderson, News 6 Sports.
From the NBC News Archives and MSNBC, here is Jane Pauley with Time and Again 2000.
The early 60s were a time of struggle and hope for the American civil rights movement. In February 1960, 4 black college students sat down at a white-only lunch counter in Greensboro, North Carolina, shaking the very foundation of the segregated South.
One day, 4 black college freshmen from North Carolina A&T quietly asked for coffee and changed a nation. Soon, lunch counters in 65 cities were filled with black students calmly insisting on service.
I said, I'm sorry, our management does not allow us to serve niggers in here.
They would not leave, despite beatings, and arrests.
Have you ever heard your heartbeat in a crowd? We were very passive. We anticipated going to jail, but none of that happened. And the longer we sat here, the more courage we got.
I think you'll be very happy to have this individual as a police officer in this city. Nicholas, congratulations. There's been a lot of turnover.
We put dare officers in the schools, we put liaison officers, we put neighborhood officers in, we've restructured more investigators, gang strike force, increased our drug and sexual assault, child sexual assault unit.
Never flinching under the watchful eye of the camera, Governor Jesse Ventura seems like he's always a couple of strides away from another interview.
Right behind us, thank you for joining us, Governor. Thank you.
And another reporter with probing questions. The governor says his experiences long before he took office taught him to handle the media spotlight.
You're in a world that hurts.
It's kind of like doing a press junket for Predator. You know, you go out to New York and you got 10 tables and you got to go from one table to the next. So I think I'm pretty prepared for it from my past lifestyle.
The governor may be prepared for the media blitz, but the reporters who cover him say this governor's style catches them off guard.
As a presence, he's very intimidating, and he can stare down a reporter, which many of us aren't really used to.
And they're not ready for this either.
That was cute. I don't know, are you?
The governor shook with anger when he responded to a question meant as a joke from a Duluth News-Tribune reporter. Now Ventura says that incident has been forgotten.
He sent me a note of apology accepted. It's behind us, and that's the way I work. I'm here to do business, not hold grudges.
But political pundits wonder if he can do business without first coming to terms with reporters' scrutiny. Local lawmakers say Ventura better get used to having his ideas carefully analyzed.
He needs to develop a little thicker skin, and when you're in this business, you're going to get criticized by somebody, and you just got to get used to it and keep your mind on what you want to accomplish.
But it's not just about holding up in front of the cameras. Political insiders say the governor needs to appreciate the role the media play in shaping and spreading his message, and at the same time, not take the criticism too seriously.
That's one area that I think he will have to improve on is his relationship with the media, because you're not going to win by, fighting with the press corps. It just doesn't work out that way.
The governor might be used to an audience, but in his past professions as wrestler and radio talk show host, he dealt directly with the public, not through the filter of the media. Media, the governor contends, treat him unfairly. Kim Kaiser, News 6. All eyes are on the Minnesota state government to see what happens when a Reform Party governor tries to sell DFL and Republican legislators on his public policies.
Those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Governor Ventura is already counting the votes.
It requires 81 votes, and I think it's strong enough as a whole, the entire bill, to get 81 votes and pass.
Local lawmakers say they're ready to take up the budget and other issues, and they're ready to strike a few compromises.
Things will really start to move now because we have something to work off of. Certainly it's not going to end up the same as that he proposed, but it often will be very similar.
Many Northland DFLers say they support the governor's tax plans, and they have a few suggestions too.
I think if Governor Ventura is going to be successful, he is going to have to focus on some major issues for his 4-year term. And you can't go wrong by stressing education.
We can do it.
Chisholm Representative David Tomasoni says he's happy with the governor's emphasis on education spending, but he'd like to see him deal with Northland issues, like declining enrollment.
That will eventually have an impact on the number of schools we have, the number of teachers we have, and et cetera, and it also has an impact on the funding. So that's one of the bills that I have in right now.
Senator Doug Johnson predicts Ventura will be a good ally.
I want to sit down with him one of these days and visit with him about the great economic development needs of northern Minnesota, and I think we'll find him an ally in that regard once we have a chance to sit down with him.
But others say they're not sure about getting the governor on their side, like Tom Huntley's efforts to get rural health care providers reimbursed at the same rates as metro providers.
Whether he'll support that, I don't know. I think we can get it passed in the legislature, but we'll see what happens.
But overall, Northland legislators say they're impressed by the governor's willingness to learn and to meet with both parties.
And it was really a surprise for us to see a governor in our caucus. So he's reaching out to the individual parties and trying to get his plan across.
Legislators say they're cautiously optimistic about this session. They just want to make sure the governor focuses on the Northland as much as the metro area. Kim Kaiser, News 6.
Yes, Juliana? Flushing down the toilet. Yes, that is more specific. Keep your thumbs ready. To even where, to what part? Yes, Juliana? That is correct.
Studies in the early 90s or late 80s found that students did not have a lot of background in consumer economics. So this is just a good way and a fun occasion to learn more about what they need to know when they get out into the real world.
Because we have to be ship-shape, okay?
In Captain Nell, a certain Navy SEAL may have finally met his match.
Take a deep breath. Let me hear you giggle. Good job.
The most honorable governor is entering the quarterdeck.
A veteran teacher who 8 years ago turned her classroom into a Navy boot camp, Nell Swanson would have been right at home with the governor's former drill sergeants.
We're on the ship. And we go ship-shape, and this is wrong with that. What's wrong with kids learning how to become organized? That's a lifelong skill.
She believes in homework.
How about you?
I turn in my homework and do stuff like that.
She's kind of strict. She wants us all to be the best we can be. So I wouldn't say tough, she's strict.
The USS Excitement crew is ready for locker inspection.
And the governor was clearly impressed. After an eagle-eyed inspection,
Well, they all look good to me. I think they all passed.
Thank you.
And a classroom tour.
Cubbies are over here.
All right.
The governor told a school assembly they'd renewed his faith in his efforts to support
Again, I
public
compliment
schools.
you all. You're doing a fine job, and it's examples like this that is going to make my job so much easier over at that Capitol in selling the public school, and that we here in the state of Minnesota can be proud of our public schools.
Are there any other needs that I need to meet before we leave?
And as long as Captain Nell is steering the ship, she'll accept nothing less.
Rooftop prowlers burglarized a Duluth business Saturday, January 30th, 1999, between 2 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the morning. A central entrance fast food restaurant was the victim. The thieves climbed onto the roof of the business and broke in through a rooftop hatch. They then dropped inside the building. The crooks used tools they brought and tools from the business to cut open the safe. They stole cash and change and left through the roof hatch. Another central entrance business also had a rooftop prowler that night. The would-be burglars cut a hole in the roof, but never entered the business. Police believe the same people are responsible for both incidents. Crime Stoppers will pay a cash reward to get the information which will help catch these criminals. Our numbers are 1-800-974-TIPS or 723-ENOUGH. That's 723-36 683.
Some 1,300 acres of land are surrounded by an 8-foot fence just off Highway 13 near Maple, Wisconsin. Inside the fence, you'll find about 700 head of elk. The elk are bred for size, and most will grow to over 1,200 pounds. Many of the bulls will sport trophy-size antlers with 6 points a side. Neighbors have watched the operation with interest over the last year.
They're pretty much cared for like a beef ranch would be.
Becky and Ron Sullivan live on a dairy farm adjacent to the elk ranch. They say in the summer they often walk along the edge of their property and feed the elk through the fence.
They'll come right up to the fence to see who you are or what you are, so they're not really wild.
6-year-old Riley Mundell lives across the road from the elk farm. She loves to watch the big creatures up close and imitate their haunting bugle sounds.
It's gonna be loud, so you might want to cover your ears.
Most of the neighbors we spoke with didn't know exactly what the elk were being raised for, but some had their speculations.
And that's what they're raising for. It's just to harvest them, more or less.
Some neighbors had heard that the antlers were being cut off, ground up, and shipped to Canada to be exported to Asian countries for sale as aphrodisiacs.
I-Team 6 confirmed that, but found that the main purpose for raising the elk was to truck them to a hunting preserve in Darby, Montana. It's that operation that's in the center of a nationwide controversy.
The Big Velvet Hunting Preserve draws people from around the world for big money hunting expeditions. Hunters will pay up to $26,000 for the experience. But the enterprise is being challenged as cruel and non-sporting.
But they're advertised as trophy sales. But what these are is canned fantasy hunts.
The way it works at the Big Velvet Ranch is shortly after a client gets there, he can pick out the bull he wants from a promotional videotape provided by the ranch owners. The more the client pays, the bigger the bull they can kill.
They're then driven from the lodge to an enclosure where they can shoot the elk they've chosen with a rifle or a bow. They can take the head and antlers home with them, and the meat is packed in dry ice and shipped to wherever the client wants.
Like shooting a cow. You know, you raise this animal and then turn it loose and somebody shoots it.
That's not sportsmanship.
After learning that the elk, raised like domestic cattle here in Maple, were going to be trucked to Montana to be used for the fantasy hunting operation, many of the neighbors were upset.
I don't like the idea of an animal being raised in close proximity to a human and then being shot, you know, because they don't have any instinct to run away. They're not afraid, so they're more or less a sitting duck.
The man who owns the elk operation in Maple and Montana is aware of the debate, but says he doesn't intend to make any changes. In fact, he has just purchased more Montana grazing land and wants to expand his ranch. He's also looking to buy more land near Maple to increase the size of his elk herd in the Northland. In Maple, Wisconsin, Barbara Riles, News 6. Some 1,300 acres of land are surrounded by an 8-foot fence just off Highway 13 near Maple, Wisconsin. Inside the fence, you'll find about 700 head of elk. The elk are bred for size, and most will grow to over 1,200 pounds. Many of the bulls will sport trophy-size antlers with 6 points a side. Neighbors have watched the operation with interest over the last year.
They're pretty much cared for like a beef ranch would be.
Becky and Ron Sullivan live on a dairy farm adjacent to the elk ranch. They say in the summer they often walk along the edge of their property and feed the elk through the fence.
They'll come right up to the fence to see who you are or what you are, so they're not really wild.
6-year-old Riley Mundell lives across the road from the elk farm. She loves to watch the big creatures up close and imitate their haunting bugle sounds.
It's gonna be loud, so you might want to cover your ears.
Most of the neighbors we spoke with didn't know exactly what the elk were being raised for, but some had their speculations.
And that's what they're raising for. It's just to harvest them, more or less.
Some neighbors had heard that the antlers were being cut off, ground up, and shipped to Canada to be exported to Asian countries for sale as aphrodisiacs.
I-6 confirmed that, but found that the main purpose for raising the elk was to truck them to a hunting preserve in Darby, Montana. That operation is in the center of a nationwide controversy.
The Big Velvet Hunting Preserve draws people from around the world for big money hunting expeditions. Hunters will pay up to $26,000 for the experience. But the enterprise is being challenged as cruel and non-sporting.
But they're advertised as trophy sales. But what these are is canned fantasy hunts.
The way it works at the Big Velvet Ranch is shortly after a client gets there, he can pick out the bull he wants from a promotional videotape provided by the ranch owners. The more the client pays, the bigger the bull they can kill.
They're then driven from the lodge to an enclosure where they can shoot the elk they've chosen with a rifle or a bow. They can take the head and antlers home with them, and the meat is packed in dry ice and shipped to wherever the client wants.
Like shooting a cow. You know, you raise this animal and then turn it loose and somebody shoots it.
That's not sportsmanship.
After learning that the elk, raised like domestic cattle here in Maple, were going to be trucked to Montana to be used for the fantasy hunting operation, many of the neighbors were upset.
I don't like the idea of an animal being raised in close proximity to a human and then being shot. You know, because they don't have any instinct to run away. They're not afraid, so they're more or less a sitting duck.
The man who owns the elk operation in Maple and Montana is aware of the debate, but says he doesn't intend to make any changes. In fact, he has just purchased more Montana grazing land and wants to expand his ranch. He's also looking to buy more land near Maple to increase the size of his elk herd in the Northland. In Maple, Wisconsin, Barbara Riles, News 6.
The tiny taconite pellets are the livelihood for many in the Northland. EVTAC Mine plans to shut down one of its 2 production lines at the end of May. That means workers who depend on the pellets could lose their jobs this spring. The newest workers at the Eveleth plant say they're especially concerned.
That happened to me at Mintech back in '81, so kind of bummed out.
Do you think that it'll be one of you being the ones cut off, or are you?
Oh yeah, I'm pretty close to the bottom.
Others are hoping their seniority will help them survive the tough times.
No, I'm one of the ones that got a little more time here, so I'm sure some of the other ones with 2 years or less, they'll probably be gone right away.
EVTAC officials say they're not sure how many workers could be affected by the production cutback.
One of the things we don't want to do is float a number out and get a lot of people nervous because everybody understands the seniority system, and then find out that you've scared the hell out of people for nothing. And we just don't want to do that to our employees. It's a stressful time for the families.
The announcement comes as the taconite industry is struggling with lower prices for their pellets. As foreign countries flood the U.S. market with cheap steel, union workers have rallied here and at the U.S. Capitol in the hopes that lawmakers will close the gates on those imports. Here at home, EVTAC officials say they can't get bank loans to cover their costs. They say it all adds up to a very difficult situation.
This is not contrived. It's deadly serious. There are things that happen certainly are beyond our control. You know, when we talk about the Asian markets and the oversupply of pellets right now, the dumping of steel, all of those factors played. But the bottom line for us is we need to get our costs down.
It's the season for love, and local florists know the best way to express those romantic feelings.
For people who are in love,
Roses are always in.
Sue Kempfer designs the floral valentines, and her sweetheart delivers them. He hit the road at 8 a.m. to get out the gifts of love.
We got 4109 West 5th. We'll hit that one first.
Stephen Gill says he's learned to drive carefully with the precious cargo.
You don't want to break the flowers because then you can't deliver them.
He and his friend Joe Miller made about 40 Valentine's deliveries and logged about 250 miles. They say the hours in the van pay off when they see people's reactions.
Oh, this one lady today, she was like, for me, for me, for me, for me. Just couldn't believe it. It's really, it brings a lot of smiles to people's faces.
Some rose recipients couldn't believe their luck and couldn't guess who gave the flowers.
Oh, it's heaven. It's just wonderful. It's just such a nice gesture from somebody. They're beautiful.
But Stephen and Joe say you never know how some people will react.
Oh, the different personalities, the one that like the flowers, the one that want to send the flowers back. It's different than you think.
Some people were happy for a Valentine's surprise, but they weren't ready to be caught on camera. Stephen and Joe say no matter what recipients say or how long it takes, they like being agents of love for a day. Kim Kaiser, News 6.
The weather certainly has been keeping forecasters on their toes. One day it's 40 above, while the next it's 20 below. With weather this crazy, everyone's got their eye on George, especially the staff of the Dino American Birkebeiner.
Now, are you keeping a close eye on George?
We do. We always, every night, watching the weather and seeing what's happening.
But despite the wacky weather and the deja vu of 1998, this year's Berkey is a go.
Last week we were a little worried. The rain last Thursday scared us a little bit. A couple other races were canceled, so that always sends a little bit of panic. But we're fine now, and it'll be okay now that the temperatures are back to normal.
Here at the finish line, you can see there's not a lot of snow on the ground, which poses a small problem for cross-country skiing. Now, since the weather is so unpredictable, they have made other arrangements, and they will be hauling in snow to make sure there's a fresh layer here along Main Street.
We didn't think it would be like this. In November, when people were asking, we thought this will never happen 2 years in a row, but it's definitely a different winter for us in northern Wisconsin, but it's okay. I mean, the best thing about it is that we did go through it last year. We know we can handle it. We handled really odd, adverse conditions, and we'll get through it.
And unless George says spring is in the air, in just a few short days, all of Hayward will be dazzled by the greatest show on snow. In Hayward, Jody Grayson, News 6.
Yeah, heard a little rumble, and it was loud enough so they wondered what it was. But then when we got ready to go home, we come out for overnight, and got up here and we saw this mess.
I know all the tourist resort operators on both sides of the line want to have more peace, among the operators and stuff. There's a lot of bad feelings on both sides of the river, both sides of the lakes, even in Rainy Lake.
And you're in real close proximity as I look at them.
Turn around the ladder. Turn around to go down the ladder. We've actually been having kids go through some type of the exit drills for quite a while. But in August, we received this trailer through donations, and it makes it a lot easier to teach kids because it's more hands-on and more realistic for them. So we're hoping they're going to remember it a lot more.
We learned how to get out of a house and not to leave stuff on a kitchen stove, and don't leave stuff on your stairs.
We're uneasy and concerned when we see reorganizations and shakeups at any of our major companies. I don't have any inside information, but we're uneasy and concerned when we see reorganizations and shakeups at any.
Our kids, they really get excited about playing the bigger schools, the Northwesterns, Park Fallses, along with our natural rivalries in our conference, and to not be able to play, to not be able to compete and just get after it on the court. I think they were pretty disappointed with that, even more so than losing.
For 4 heady days, it has been a dizzying whirl of frolicking, flattery,
Jesse Ventura of Minnesota,
and fawning by the national press, capped off today with a warm review of yesterday's speech in the Washington Post. But Senator Paul Wellstone, no stranger to the media limelight himself, arrived for a luncheon with the governor, determined to throw a little cold water on this Washington love fest. Angry over Ventura's insistence that the feds butt out of state education.
If they take care of special ed, we'll be happy to take care of the rest.
Wellstone fired back.
When it comes to education, and it comes to children, and it comes to the federal role of getting the resources back to the state of Minnesota, I want to fight very hard for that, and I want to insist that the federal government has a role in doing that. I think the governor and I are in disagreement on this fundamental question.
And on Ventura's confrontation with students over state aid,
Then maybe your professors better take a pay cut. Well, no, why not?
I think the argument that, families in Minnesota, if they're smart enough, will figure out how to afford higher education is just not based on the reality.
So I asked the senator what they did agree on.
Oh, I think we agree on the same kind of.
But Wellstone is a lonely critic in a town turned upside down tonight by the body.
Northeast Minnesota, the Iron Range has been well represented this week in Washington, D.C. The steelworkers are everywhere. And for me and for Sheila, it's like a homecoming. I mean, I feel like I'm in the range here in Washington, D.C., and I love it. But it's very serious in purpose. And a lot of our steelworkers are losing their jobs right now. We are seeing this outrageous situation where you have a lot of, I think, illegal dumping of cheap steel on our market, taking away jobs from our workers. So, you know, I've been demanding of the administration that they be tough in trade negotiations and put a stop to this.
Had been upset a bit earlier, but still coming out of a section as the number 2 seed. You are
It's like it's one of the biggest things that's ever happened to our school. It's really, really exciting. I guess since I'm not down there, it's still exciting in school. It's been like a very tense, filling day.
For us, it's a parallel management issue, but that's something that we work on regularly. Speak to the hospital's planning and what it is they're doing. But as far
experience problems and have them sit down in one room. Everybody's doing their own thing, and it's best that we all sit down in the same room and talk about what we're doing and see if there's additional coordination that needs to take place.
Despite repeated attempts directing Mr. Sanders to drop the weapon, he continued moving towards the deputies. While Mr. Sanders was still moving in the general direction of the deputies, he raised the firearm in a threatening manner and was fired at by 2 members of the St. Louis County Sheriff's Department. Complete their investigation. It's referred to the St. Louis County.
I will support it because definitely telemark is a benefit to our area, and very important to our area is an overall operation of Cable Wisconsin.
A study from the Journal of American Medicine found that talking on a cell phone in the car can impair your driving ability as much as driving drunk. Danielle Spolarich knows firsthand it only takes one stray glance to turn a casual drive into an accident.
Well, I could see fine, like I wasn't distracted by the fact that I was on my cell phone, but she didn't yield to me and I wasn't able to notice her coming up the street.
The Minnesota State Patrol says it only takes a minor distraction to cause a major disaster.
It takes a matter of just looking over your shoulder for a split second, coming back, and things change in front of you instantly. So that's why it's important not to be on the cell phones while you're driving.
And if staying safe isn't enough reason to keep your cell phones off in the car, then there are a few places right here in town you may want to visit. Local body shops say damage from inattentive driving can cost anywhere from $1,000 to $15,000 to repair.
Well, we've seen quite a few that have come in, they weren't paying attention and go through an intersection, all of a sudden they end up here.
That's if you're fortunate to survive. Body shops can usually repair a car, but many times the people inside the car aren't as lucky. In Duluth, Kim Kaiser, News 6.
Now 408. 408, you're out, sir. Mr. Miner, you're out. 408.
The auctioning of the multi-million-dollar Cohasset Technomar plant started and finished in a 2-hour seesaw battle.
405 going once. You're out, sir. 405. 405 is bid up.
A local and Chicago-based bidder and an unidentified phone bidder battled with the bucks for ownership of the Technomar plant. The bids came in low and with much anticipation.
Michael, I hear you. I hear your frustration. I'm frustrated as well, but the man wants to go to $1,000 increments now.
We'll go another 1,000, 6,402,000.
In the end, bidder 309, the unknown phone bidder, placed the highest bid.
It's over. Third and last call. Buyer 309 wins the bid for $6,750,000. Congratulations.
But there's no celebrating for the citizens of Cohasset. The auction didn't raise anywhere near the total amount owed in debt. Now Ted Moeller says he and other residents will have to pick up the tab in taxes.
I don't think it's right because we didn't have a chance to vote whether our money was going to go into this or not.
And then there's the issue of job loss if the new owner decides to close the plant.
You know, you go any place south of here, you have to go clear to the cities in order to get work. You know, and I don't know whether Duluth has got too much work or not, but there's hardly nothing around here. Mining companies are all shutting down. Paper mills are laying off. Everybody's cutting back. So we need the jobs here.
Technomar creditors were also concerned with the final numbers.
We were hoping, frankly, that the price would go higher than it did.
And the future of the Cohasset plant.
We are hopeful that the high bidder will consider keeping the plant in operation here in Cohasset.
Ted Moeller says he's run out of hope. He's now relying on luck that this new business deal will shed some light and good fortune on the future of Cohasset. In Cohasset, Corrine Winter, News 6.
people go right down to the water.
This is obviously a big idea.
Yeah.
Great.
That's no joke. Yeah, that's wild.